Hi, it's Michelle Brown, and I wanted to thank you for stopping in here. I'm going to show you real quick how I made this very pretty Noel card with the Christmas Pine stamp set from Stampin' Up. I've got a piece of watercolor paper and old olive ink, and I'm going to stamp the pine needles on. And you'll see in the stamp set there's it's like a two-step, they call it, stamp set. It's got the pine needles that I'm using, and then there's another stamp that goes on top of it to add more dimension to it, to add another color. And you see I forgot to put my pad underneath there to help with the photopolymer stamps there to get a better impression. Now I'm just trying to put it around the sides of the card. Make sure I press it down so I get lots of color on there. And a couple more here. Yeah, that looks like enough. Now I'm washing it off with the Stampin' Scrub and just water. It helps to scrub off the stamps, all the little nooks and crannies, gets it all clean. And now I'm just spraying water on, and you have to be careful you don't put too much. You see it, how it's moving? The ink starts to move pretty quick, so I'm going to hold it down with my tweezers and try to dry it with my heat tool, and it warps it, so I put a little heat on the back also. That gets it drying a little bit quicker, and it helps stop the warping. And then I'm also going to use the Big Shot to try to flatten it back out, and I use the magnetic platform there. You see I use that all the time. I just put it in between a piece of copy paper and put it back through. And now I'm just going to put more, I'm going to stamp, I should say, right back on top of where I was, excuse my head, to get some definition back on those pine needles. There we go, get all of them back again, so you can see that helps it to define it a little bit better. And I'm still having a little trouble with the warping. And now I've got the gold embossing powder, and we're going to stamp the sentiment. And I use the embossing buddy on there, I should say, and we're going to use it, the Versamark ink and the word Noel. It's written in a beautiful, very wide script font. And I'm going to actually double stamp that. So here I got just any old paintbrush to get it off the extra embossing powder that I don't want it embossing gold all over the card, or at least not yet. There, I'm heating it from the bottom too to try to control the warping. And we'll put the embossing buddy back on again to get any more moisture off. And we're going to stamp again with the Versamark right over top. See, right on top of the word again. Hold it down there for a second. And clean the stamp off. And now we're going to put some more of the gold embossing powder on there. And knock that off a little bit. And I'll have to get the paintbrush out again. It's just a dry brush. Any brush will do. Pushes it all off, the powder, the extra, and heat that back up, and you see it thickens it a little bit more. And I'm trying to get that flattened out a little. And now this time we're not going to use the Versamark, we're going to just use water. And I'm just splatting it on there, any old spot. But then, of course, I get a little too much and it starts making my ink run again. And I see a couple spots that I would like a little more water, so I'm going to try differently with using my hand to splat it on there and dab off the big blobs of water and put the powder on, embossing powder right on top. It sticks, to anything, whatever kind of ink. As long as it's still wet, it'll stick to it. And of course the water is wet, so it'll stick to that. I just wanted to try it for something different to see how it looked. Tap that off, blow it off. And there we go. Now we'll heat that back up again. And you'll see it's not a very pretty color when it's just the powder. But after it heats up and melts, see, it takes just a little bit longer than inks do, water, because it kind of soaked into the card, so it's got to dry it and then heat it. It's got to heat the embossing powder back up. But you see, it looks just like I did it with a stamp or, with the Versamark ink. But Versamark ink is so thick, you couldn't just splat it on there like I did with the water. And I'm going to put it back in to the Big Shot to try to flatten it out again in between the copy paper and in between the plates too. And now I've got olive cardstock and gold glimmer paper. And to save some of the glimmer paper, because you don't even see 2/3 of it, I'm going to cut out the middle with this framelit. And there, I got the center out. I can keep that for something else. Put that away. Big Shot. And now we're going to assemble a card. And the card base is the standard A2 on the Whisper White. So I've really only used 3 colors. I've got white, old olive, and the gold. Now we're going to use the snail adhesive on there. I tend to overdo it sometimes. And, whoop, I got it crooked. I pull it back up and put it back on. Sometimes that really doesn't work. It tears the paper. And now I got to put the glimmer paper on. Oh, and by the way, I always cut the glimmer paper from the back. I cut it upside down with the glitter face down. I don't know if you noticed that. It helps to cut through all the glue or whatever it is that they use to make that. And now I've got gold metallic thread. I'm going to wrap around probably about 10 times, I think. Put a little bit of the snail adhesive onto the back to help it stick so it doesn't slide off. While you're doing this, wrapping it round and round, just make sure you don't get it too tight. I'm going to cut that off, tie it in a knot, and then I'm not sure why my camera keeps getting closer like that. Then you make sure you put lots of glue on the back of this, so because of the warping that went on with the watercolor paper. There, now to hold that down, I put something big on it and hold it down for a couple minutes. And now I'm going to tie a little bow. Actually, it doesn't end up a bow, it ends up a knot on the top there. But it just holds it together, pinches it together, makes it look really cute. And there we are. Thanks for joining me. And thanks for watching. Happy holidays to you.